Apple destroys OpenAI and every other LLM. What this means and what they discovered.
Welcome to the All Future podcast. I am not Matt. I am Andrew. Matt will be here next week. He had an Xbox emergency.
He did.
So if you don't know, Matt runs a lot of other YouTube channels. We both have been running YouTube channels for, close to 10 years now. And so every time there's a major release, we all get pulled in different directions. So go watch his channels, Xbox ready, PS ready, Steam Deck ready. Anything with a ready in the title is something that Matt is responsible for. Anyways, I am producer Andrew that you guys might hear about every so often.
We do talk about you sometimes. Hopefully always in a positive light.
I am a real person.
Yes.
Just so everyone knows that. And we did, if you go back to the original episodes, me and Ryan did start this podcast together.
You were here.
January of 4 or whatever. No, but today we're talking about Apple's new paper.
Yes.
And so Apple just discovered that all LLMs aren't actually reasoning. And it's really fascinating because this has been something that people have been doing interviews about and explaining to people for a while, which is LLMs are doing almost like a parlor trick. And that sounds like so demeaning to what they're actually doing because there's so much processing and pattern recognition in what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's an incredible parlor trick, but they're not actually reasoning, especially in the sense of like mathematics. So if I were to give you like a problem, this is how we're all taught to do this in grade school, right? Johnny has like 6 sheep and 6 sheep keep coming into his thing every hour. In 8 hours, how many sheep will he have? And so how would you turn that into like a problem or something?
To be honest, I zoned out a little bit. So
what we're taught to do in algebra is you look for the variables, right? And you turn the sheep into okay, I talk about sheep and Ryan's just falling asleep over here.
Yeah.
So. No, but you turn the variable, the numbers into variables. So you would say like X sheep times 6 or whatever, and you get your formula. And then so as people start asking you more questions, like, okay, well, how about 8 hours? Well, you don't have to do a lot of work. You just change the variables. And if you do something like the sheep are actually in Jamaica and they're, it's 100 degrees outside. That doesn't do anything to change the result, right? Like we have the formula. The formula is ironclad.
Yeah.
And we're really taught to get rid of information that doesn't matter and keep the information that does matter as far as the formula is concerned. What they found that these LLMs are doing sometimes is that they're not really making a formula. They're just basing it off of pattern recognitions of problems asked in the past.
Yeah.
Why is this important? Well, what they found is that as you keep adding information that doesn't matter, the results start to change. So let's say it gets the answer right the first time you ask the question, and then you go, the sheep are from Jamaica and it's 100 degrees outside. Then they'll change their answer. And so this is wild, especially in a world where we're trying to get these things to be 100% right.
Yeah.
If you put in extra dumb variables, you don't expect the thing to get worse at doing it. And so the thing they think they're having a problem with on the back end is it doesn't prioritize good information from bad information. And so this essentially like lets us know that all of these LLMs, not just ChatGPT or, even these newest versions that they feel like are reasoning, they're getting questions right, but they're not really reasoning, at least in the math sense. They're not really like logic variables or things like that. They're not really reasoning like we would think they'd be reasoning.
Yeah, so this is significant in many ways because it's Apple coming out with this paper and they're diving into the AI space as a whole with Apple Intelligence. But we know they're also partnering with ChatGPT to bring that to iPhones. I think that's coming in the next iteration of iOS 18. It's going to deliver that where you can send things out to them. But then long term, you're going to be able to send it out to Gemini, Llama, whatever model that they partner with. Beyond GPT, and they're not just exclusively invested with them. So they're curious about this whole space, and they are finding these things kind of across the board. I was at the Tesla We Robot event last week, and I talked for a while with a guy who is working on Grok at XAI.
Nice.
And he was talking about how they're particularly trying to solve and make sure everything is as accurate as possible. Like that's their thing. I think they call it ultimate truth seeking is what they're going for. And so it's just, it's so interesting to see these different approaches. And I could see how this kind of problem solving works. It's that kind of thing where, I don't know, like smart brains can figure these things out, like pattern recognition. Like if you do Duolingo enough, you can sometimes get answers because you remember where it was positioned before. That's exactly or something like
how
that.
they were describing it. It memorized the questions.
Yeah.
And so,
as opposed to actually having the knowledge or reasoning and figuring that out. And Apple's quote is pretty direct here. They said, "We found no evidence of formal reasoning in language models. Their behavior is better explained by sophisticated pattern matching, so fragile, in fact, that changing names can alter results by around 10%. So, that's a pretty significant thing. And I'm curious to see what this means going forward. Is this going to be as big of a deal as we think? Or like, how does
they really said it was going to be a big deal in things like finance or things that have to do with math. And the difference is too here that like they already have math AI that does math and does things based on all these things. It's just not the same as an LLM. So it just means things aren't going to change as rapidly in that space where you have to be 100% correct. So like medical diagnoses or, like finance, when you're moving around millions and billions of dollars at a time, you need that AI to be correct every time or else you're going to have a serious problem. So really in those environments, that's where you're going to have the biggest like stall in AI. But we're still seeing it used in like customer service and all these sorts of things. And you guys talked about Dreamforce a couple weeks back, but really like we're still getting to that point where AI agents are going to be able to do things. They're just not going to be able to do things 100% correctly. And that's going to be okay because there's going to be this margin of error. I'm sure people don't do things 100% correctly either, but we're just going to have that margin of error there. And where we can't have that margin of error, that's where it's just going to take more time to develop or develop something completely different.
Yeah. I'm curious also to see if this leads Apple in a different direction. Like these kind of findings are potentially why they're slower on things, and when they come out with their own Apple Intelligence stuff on these levels, if it's going to be better, or if they're kind of just finding this and it's arbitrary as to what future development means. Yeah. But hearing this from Apple is very interesting.
And I think they want to, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they want to really prove that they're not behind. They're trying to do things right. And every step of the way that they can, add something to the fire where it's like, look, guys, these things aren't really doing what you think they are. They're just sort of, doing this other sort of trick that will work 90% of the time. But like this basic level stuff that I'm sure, it's like testing anything else. You want to put the input in, you want to get that result out every time. Yeah. And if you're just base testing, like, okay, we changed the variable from sheep to goat and now it got the answer wrong. Like what's the, there's something fundamentally wrong here that we didn't get right in these LLMs. Yeah. So I think they're great for a ton of stuff. I actually used an LLM to put together a little podcast. Yeah. You guys talked about Notebook LM, right? And this is actually just like a giant term paper that you'd find in college or something like that. And I was like, let me listen to Notebook LM and see if it can explain it to me well. It was so good. I was afraid that it was better than we were going to talk about. I think we did a pretty good job, but it was really good. So I still recommend Notebook LM for anything out there. Yeah. If it's like a big topic you think is going to be too crazy, just dump it in there and see what it says, and then try going back and reading the paper or something. The next thing we're talking about is OpenAI's Swarm framework. Now, this has been around for a while. I think it's just getting more sophisticated, but this is really OpenAI's dipping their toe into the agent world. And we talk about the agent world all the time, that it's coming. What an agent is something that will do something for you. So you put in a voice command, book me an Uber. It like goes out to the Uber API, books you to something that you're talking about. And this is really the thing that will start replacing humans in the workforce once we get these things working together. Now, why is it Swarm? It's because these agents are multiply working together with each other. So you'll have the Uber agent working with this other agent working with something else. And these three things have to talk to each other in order to be able to complete a task. Just like a human would interact with an app or something like that. And so these things are becoming open source and available for free on GitHub. And we're going to see these things now be more readily available for every company to have open access to AI and building their agents. Now, we're not there yet, but what are you most excited for in the agent future?
That's a good question. There's like kind of so many use cases. But I guess just I love the specificity that you can train something for a specific problem. So I don't know. I always have like really specific, weird, like nerdy things.
Yeah,
like
we were just talking about the
knowledge.
lights in here, right?
Yeah. Like I love optimizing little things like voice commands to flip on the lights for the studio, or even I'm a nerd about like what drummers played on what recordings, and like you could train a thing to on a database to like return a quick result to you for that. That's obviously a very simple use case, because that's just relaying information from I guess just a database. But I don't know. I think any of the stuff where it's actually thinking for you, like for instance, if I know that I want something, I want to purchase something, and then it will go out and shop different options for me and understand like what my brain's like willingness to pay a couple extra dollars to get it in 2 days versus 5 is, and like all those little things that we do for shopping. Because any automated shopping experience right now is like, I don't think people really want to do it because they still want the end understanding of
Yeah.
what they're buying and that they're getting the price that they want and everything, and it's not influenced by something. So I don't know, that might be a good one. Just like really well done shopping.
I think that's good. I think like what you're talking about too is the research you have to do before you make like some kind of big purchase or something, right? You have to go, well, I just went camping. What are the models of tents? What are the, how many people does it fit? What does that really mean or something like that? And it takes a lot of research to really understand something.
Yeah.
And if someone can like really explain that to you better and then explain why you should get like maybe not even the best price thing, but like you're going to want this other thing, just like you're saying, because I know you like these products that like are a little better than the lowest quality, and you're willing to spend like 20 extra bucks to get like more space. You probably want this thing. Really treating it like it's a salesperson who's there to educate you and then help you make the best decision, which will obviously be like, sidelined by like, you should buy the most expensive one because, you're not going to like it or something. So there's going to be a lot of these agents talking people into things. I just used Amazon's Rufus for the first time. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it, yeah.
It's okay. It's like really, I feel like a lot of these things are made for your grandma now. Like where if your grandma or your mom, really doesn't know anything about like researching or how to do it or how to even find something, they could just chat with this thing and then I'll pull up like what should I get for camping or what should I get for a gift for my, nephew or something like that. It'll pull up some options. They can pick from those options and just check out. Yeah. It's really people who just are overwhelmed by the whole internet experience, which I think is a good thing. You want older people to have a better time with the internet, but
yeah. And like, I guess, yeah, because we're used to like quick things. So that's why we maybe wouldn't be interested in its current form as much. But yeah, this stuff will develop and get there, I think, to where we're interested in it because it's actually much faster. There's already research stuff that I do on like GPT that's much faster than I would traditionally Google something. So anything like that I'm excited for, and agents actually taking action on something. Like even the simple example of booking you an Uber. Like, I don't know, my flight lands and it knows where I am in the airport and how long it's going to take me, and then it calls it at the right time based on current wait times. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, all that's going to be good for optimizing the future. Another cool thing that just came out, Adobe's Firefly. So we've reported on this in the past when they announced all their new features. Yeah. And it's coming back again because it's actually getting released this time in beta. Yeah. What is Adobe Firefly? It's a video generation tool like Sora from OpenAI, or there's a couple other competitors floating around like Runway. You can already do this sort of stuff. This isn't brand new. It's just brand new for it to be built into this software. And it's pretty crazy. Have you seen any of the demos?
I have. And like, I think what makes it especially crazy is because it's implementing it into like a use case. Like when you see Sora, you see like a sample of something. But this is like, I think the first one is like a generative extend, and it can extend a clip that you have by 1 to 2 seconds. So it's fully recreating your clip and then adding to it. And then it does so incredibly well. So like if you needed 2 seconds more coverage, you can just do that and extend the clip that you have, which is pretty crazy. And it does it up to 1080p today at 24 frames a second.
That's great. That's most things are getting delivered maybe 4K. You're not going to notice one 1080 clip in here. So yeah, that's awesome. The other thing they have is like the actual generative video. That's the Firefly, and that stuff looks crazy. It's only 720p right now, so you can't. I don't know. I think you could throw it in and it would still tell the story well.
Yeah.
And then like a lot of the argument of this is these things are going to put like CGI artists out of business. I don't think this thing is like recreating the Hulk anytime soon in a way that's going to be usable in a Marvel movie. It might help people like get started. Or my favorite thing about this is it's going to give tools to like young people to have access to these like quick B-roll clips that they can really use to tell their stories better.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a thing that's going to like destroy an industry. I think this is going to be better for all young creatives who want to get their hands on these things, who would never be able to like one of their examples is this crazy fire lizard like in the middle of a volcano or something.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get the budget to get like CGI together for that if you're some 18-year-old kid or some kid in film school. But if you could pay whatever their monthly fee is, then, you can get access to those things, and it'd be, a lot better of a story that you could tell.
And so that's the Firefly thing. I think that's even actually on the web, right? It's like a web tool for that one. It's not built in necessarily to Premiere.
Not yet.
Okay. But the other one is built into Premiere, which is the part that makes that especially crazy, because you literally just extend the clip in the editor you're used to. But yeah, this is text to video or image to video, which image to video is pretty interesting too. You just start with a photo, or maybe you could probably flesh out a full like awesome looking sketch or design and then have it take that and make a little video of it based on a description.
And then you get your AI image generator to get your first image to get you to the next place. There's always times I wish I had that or something like that, or like just like the AI extend of a image or something, right? Like you wish you had that little extra bit of real estate just to make sure that that you could put text over it or something like that. And so the same thing in video. Like if you have a little more space or a little more room, or if you could just turn this image, like they do this all the time. There's been effects for this, but like in documentary style things, they take an image and then they sort of cut it up and make this like parallax effect of the image. Like these things have been around already. So, it'll just help people make better stories faster and more cost effective. I think this is a good thing. It's just, you're not gonna have to sit there and fight with this thing and cut it out. Like no one wants to do that, to get to the end of this documentary. You want to just like press the button and have it be done for you if you can.
I am curious to see some of the stuff that Apple might do in response, because like their software like Final Cut is always, I love it, and it's really optimized in a lot of ways, but it's always behind stuff like Premiere. There's features in Premiere that they have delivered that it's like, oh man, I wish I could do that in Final Cut. And this is probably going to be one of them soon, where it's like, oh man, I wish I could just generatively fill. And maybe you can do some roundabout way, export your clip, or like, and you can still get it done and still use Final Cut, but to have that immediate workflow of just dragging the clip. I'm curious if Apple enters this space at all, because they are entering this space with Apple Intelligence, but we haven't seen it with video generation or anything. But naturally that might kind of come in time, and they might have to compete if they're trying to keep people buying their software.
This is a very Matt thing to say, but software is low on the priority list of things that sells MacBooks or something. I don't know that that's true. Well, I mean, it doesn't feel true to me, but because I got into Macs for that reason. But I'm sure the majority of creatives is like 1 to 1% of their sales or something like that.
Yeah.
So I guess what that means is like, even if they don't have these feature sets, it's still going to be cheaper most of the time. Like this is going to be a premium feature that's going to be charged monthly. So if they don't have these things, the way I use video editing software, I would probably just go out to Premiere Pro, get what I needed, and then come back in. And it's the same thing with like DaVinci when you're coloring stuff. I would probably just like edit it all in Final Cut and then bounce it out to DaVinci to do color or something like that. Mostly that's just because that's how I learned it. But, I just don't. I think people are set in their ways. So it might convince a young person to start on Premiere Pro instead of Final Cut. And then they're going to be on that track for the rest of their life. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I remember the time when they totally changed Final Cut. I switched to Premiere, and then eventually they got me back. But yeah, that's always the question with AI development is like, when does something need to be introduced by the competition? So when does Apple need to do something? But, this is all like kind of exciting stuff, but we're always talking about both sides of the coin here. So the new thing that we're going to be seeing a lot of is fake influencers
Oh man,
via AI.
So
yeah,
if you guys know who MKBHD is, like very long time YouTuber, he's finally getting ads of his voice promoting a product that is not him.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to happen over and over and over again. And here's my crystal ball on this. I'll tell you how the future is going to play out. I think I do this a lot in my predictions. We'll see if we get this in the next 5 years. So with music, you have copyright strikes in YouTube. If you use like copyrighted music, the algorithm's going to find it. We're going to get things like that, except for specific voices. Yeah. You're going to need to register your voice with like an ASCAP type PRO that's there to collect royalties on your voice to make sure people use your voice, that they have to pay the licensing fee for your voice, or you're going to get a copyright strike in the same way. Yeah. And so you better make sure you have a distinct voice in the future. We saw that with Scarlett Johansson and the OpenAI's voice that they made to sound like her from Scarlett Johansson's movie. And so we're going to see this over and over and over again. You're going to see The Rock or like, pick your favorite celebrity. Yeah. They're going to be promoting, whatever pills that they sell at gas stations.
And some of these voices, like it's already available and actually available through these people. So then, yeah, it's just how do you prevent people from using the tool that's available to then create something and then put it out and pass it off as that person promoting a product?
There's no way to keep up with this stuff, especially how fast this stuff turns out. Yeah. There's so many like bad actors in the marketing space, and every time they talk about this, like this is a Marquez quote, but every time Google deals with a problem, they deal with it at scale. And so that means like every time this is happening a million times over all over the platform in ways that you can't even imagine. Yeah. And so, yeah, I am happy to be part of the last generation of real people influencers, but we're real. These are our real licensed voices on here. And so, if you ever see something from us, if it's definitely real.
Yeah, definitely real.